Let me just run you through some of the big stories on citynewsroom.com across some online portals. So I'll start with citynewsroom.com as we always do. The big story here, electricity tariff hike needed to save ECG from collapse. That's coming in from the majority leader, Mahama Ayariga. Also here, government committed to decentralized SHS feeding system, and that's the Deputy Education Minister. He's been clarifying that Dr. Clement Apak is his name. Moving on, Ghana's public sector tool of political power. That's coming in from private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. In the Volta region, floods forced closure of lower primary schools in Ketes, Mamime. Yes, Mamime. And floods there have led to the schools being closed. Some other stories here. Bank of Ghana staffs were not dismissed. They were on probation. And that's coming in from the majority leader again, Mahama Ayariga, who was declared. Some more stories. In the Ashanti region, mentally unstable man allegedly butchered stranger at Iputoja in the Ashanti region, right? And in Yendi, a water project is expected to be completed next year. The MP has assured. Don't respond to minority over CJ controversy. Ansa Ansari, who is, a legal practitioner and a teacher of the law, has advised Mahama and the Attorney General. Suspended Chief Justice spoke over rights violation. That's coming in from Menchia South MP Nana Eje Bafo Iwa. In Damongo, 16 arrested for alleged involvement in illicit drugs. Moving on to the central region, over 5,700 displaced by floods across 14 districts. NADMO confirms. EC can't be both referee and regulator. That's coming from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And NADMO to embark on nationwide assessment of old buildings. GS closes in Kwanta SHS following shooting of students amid clashes. Call of strike immediately. NLC orders NI, that's the National Identification Authority. Some other story, World Vision, we aren't affiliated with any fraudulent loan scheme. And they issued a statement yesterday. And the presidency has announced that Indian Prime Minister is expected to visit Ghana on July 2nd. And 2 years since Asin North, a reflection on justice, democracy, and renewal. An interesting, piece on that really famous Asin North by-election. Of course, the MP at the time would win the seat again. But we all saw, what transpired during that period. And in this opinion piece, the author captures the story quite beautifully. Ghana is not a safe haven for drug abuse, NACOC boss declares. And I'll move on now to ChannelOneNews.com. ChannelOneNews.com. Channel1 news.com. A lot of big stories there as well. CJ removal process is featuring quite heavily here because Member of Parliament for Menchia South, Nana Eje Bafo, has been commenting on the process and the Chief Justice, comments, particularly on rights violations, right, with the whole removal case. During the speech of the Chief Justice, she mentioned or she raised concerns as to why one Daniel Ofori, who is a petitioner, would have GSC Gabriel Poiman, chair commission that this Daniel Ofori has brought against her. And we are being told that there was a particular case Daniel Ofori brought to the Supreme Court where Madam Gertrude Tokonu, offered a ruling on the matter that was in contrast with Gabriel Poiman, who at the time we are being told, supported, the petitioner's case. And she raises, issues around a possible, conflict of interest there and the likes. Of course, it was met with very stiff opposition from, members of this government saying that, or trying to reiterate a point the suspended Chief Justice made earlier about the law being the law. And it's got a lot of people talking. And I'll try and bring excerpts of her statement later on. Moving on, some other stories. Media personality Bridget Otu appointed presidential staffer at the government communications office. That also got a lot of people talking on social media, right? Because they appear a trend where some quite notable media personalities have gone into government, and this appeared or also got a lot of people talking, even though the overwhelming base of the party welcomed the decision by government to appoint her at the presidency. So many congratulatory messages yesterday on social media, and she was up in the trends the whole time, right? Where a lot of people talking about this particular appointment. We are also being told that government to roll out 24-hour economy on July 2nd, and this coming from the person being, leading this team or being put to spearhead government's 24-hour economy agenda. And I'm referring to Mr. Gusitano. He met the Speaker of Parliament on June 26th, and he made this really huge announcement. So we'll be following keenly to see what the issues are. We know in Ghana this week also a king visited, right? He called on the presidency, and now he's been meeting with the Asante Hino Tumfor Setutu II. And quite a number of interesting pictures, videos, stories have come out from that particular engagement. So the royal grandeur unfolds in Kumasi as Ashanti welcomes King Maswati III, and I'm referring to the Eswatini king, who is currently in Ghana with a large delegation, right? And a lot went down yesterday. We are being told that there was a royal dinner held in his honor by the Otumfor, the Asante Osei Tutu. And there's a story that got a lot of people also excited. Government declares July 4 a public holiday. And from the health, space or the health sector, we are being told also that adopt COVID-19 protocols to curb new surge. Ghana Health Service cautions, and this followed a statement by the University of Ghana management, where they cancelled what they described as super spreader, events, particularly hall concerts, hall week engagements, any events that sought to draw large crowds, that can be really controlled. But we are being told, however, that lectures and small, group religious activities can still go on. But, events on the large scale as hall weeks and the likes have been temporarily, cancelled due to new emerging cases of COVID-19. Adventist SHS students undergo successful eye surgery in the UK. And the Bank of Ghana is also warning the public against 10 unapproved money organizations. And these are some of the big stories in or on ChannelOneNews.com. I want to quickly move very briefly to thegraphic.com.gh, and then we'll end with Ghana Weekend. Then we can delve into some of the big stories we have for you there. Graphic.com.gh, quite a number of stories on the CJ removal process, which was very big, I must say, again, all through the week. They have the story on the 24-hour economy as well. Gusitano meets in Parliament, and over here they say that there are plans to have Parliament roll out a 24-hour service, right? So parliamentary service staff, plans are or conversations are being held as to the feasibility of them running a 24-hour service. And these are some of the stories. They also capture the Yendi water story. They talk also about some building collapses in the central region. That story was on CNR yesterday, ChannelOne Newsroom's major bulletin, and it's quite unfortunate. About 6 building collapses in a period of about a month or two, and that's quite worrying. I think it's a good time now to just bring you some headlines from GhanaWeekend.com. It's really the place where you get all of your comprehensive entertainment news, right? All put together, very well written. if it matters, it's on Ghana Weekend. If it's not on Ghana Weekend, then it doesn't matter, right? So this big story here, Empress Gifty's lawyers demand apology from Agrada over defamatory remarks. Stormzy, who's a UK rapper musician, honored with Cambridge Doctorate Educational Philanthropy. Of course, they have the story of media personality Bridget Otu's appointment as a presidential staffer. Now, moving on. Also here, wow. So it seems there's an ongoing feud with Agrada and Empress Gifty. And that's made, also gotten a lot of people talking about it. All of the stories are here on Ghana Weekend. Sam George slams viral gay couple photos at Independence Square. He posted it on his social media and said that the reintroduction of the Family Values Bill, also known as the Gay Bill, will seek, to check some of these things when it's finally passed. Jefa Gomashi, who is the tourism minister, applauds Guinness record holder Rosalind Mante for advancing creative arts. And finally, here on Ghana Weekend, they have a picture story that captures the Agri Fair as it happened on day 1, day 2, and day 3. If you missed it, you can go and relive, the memories and the photos. And of course, look out for some of the vendors who are on display there. You can still reach out to them. I'm sure they'll have some of their products delivered to you if you so wish, right? So go back to the Agri Fair stories on GhanaWeekend.com. Let me now bring you some details, right? And I'll start off with citynewsroom.com. Story by Neil Kanaku, and it's from the Bank of Ghana as they tell journalists, deepen your knowledge in financial reporting. The Bank of Ghana has underscored the urgent need for media practitioners to enhance their understanding of financial and economic issues in order to improve accuracy and clarity in public reporting. According to the BOJ, effective central bank communication and factual reportage on financial matters are essential for deepening public understanding of government policies, promoting transparency, and strengthening the credibility of economic governance. Speaking to media on Friday, June 27, after opening a 3-day capacity building seminar for 25 selected journalists in Koforidua, the Eastern Regional Capital, Director of Communication for the BOG, Bernard Otabel, emphasized the significance of the training. He explained that the seminar will cover topics such as understanding the central bank's balance sheet, accurate financial reporting, monetary policy practices, and inflation dynamics in Ghana. The aim, he said, is to reduce disinformation and misinformation in financial reportage. Now, moving on from the BOG, let me bring you this story on the suspended Chief Justice, right? And Member of Parliament for Menchia South, Nana Eje Bafo has been very, vociferous on this matter. He's been talking about it a lot. I heard him on Eyewitness News yesterday and on CNR, raising concerns as to the process has been carried out by government. So suspended Chief Justice spoke over rights violations, Menchia South MP. So Member of Parliament for Menchia South, Nana Eje Bafo, has defended suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu's recent public address, arguing that her decision to speak stemmed out from frustration over violation of her human rights in the ongoing proceedings related to her potential impeachment. Story on citynewsroom.com. His defense comes amid criticism from some legal and political observers who argue that the Chief Justice breached the confidentiality provisions of Article 146 by addressing the matter publicly. Speaking on ChannelOne News, the MP acknowledged the constitutional concerns raised, but argued that Justice Tokonu has been denied her right to natural justice, as she remains unaware of some of the specific details forming the basis of the prima facie case established against her. The story goes on to say the Menchia South MP maintained that justice must be both seen and felt, especially when the subject is a high-ranking judicial officer facing removal under controversial circumstances. And this is coming in from Member of Parliament for Menchia South, Nana J. Bafuwa, who is also, a legal practitioner. Moving on, let me bring you the story about the Electoral Commission and the OSP, still on citynewsroom.com. The headline story, EC can't be both referee and regulator. That's coming in from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So Samuel Apia Darko, Director of Strategy, Research and Communication at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, has called for the establishment of an independent political party finance audit committee to strengthen transparency and accountability in Ghana's electoral process. Speaking at a conference on a campaign financing transparency organized by Transparency International Ghana on Friday, June 27 in Accra, Mr. Samuel Darko stressed the urgent need to reduce the cost of running for political office. He raised concerns about the Electoral Commission's current dual role as both the referee and regulator, arguing that it undermines public trust and fails to provide adequate oversight of party financing. Now, this is quote. He says, Ghana should explore the creation of an independent political audit committee similar to what exists in Norway, he noted. He goes on to say the body would operate separately from the election organizers and could include representatives from the audit service, the OSP, and the judiciary headed by a judge. It would leverage existing expertise and infrastructure and operate with a dedicated budget rather than functioning as a separate office. His proposal forms part of a broader call for comprehensive electoral and campaign finance reform aimed at safeguarding Ghana's democracy from the growing influence of money in politics. And that's coming from Sami Darko, also a lawyer with the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Moving on from politics to now some health stories, right? Because like I said, late last week, we saw a statement from the University of Ghana management indicating that they were going to place a temporary ban on big events being held on, the university's campus because they described those events as super spreader events. That was leading to students or the campus recording high cases of COVID-19. And with this particular one, the university also mentioned that when they check on health reports from the University of Ghana Health Center, it leads to, it points out to the fact that a lot more infections were growing as a result of some really big student activities that had happened in the past. So for example, we can recall the Pentagon Hall, or the AU Hall, also, very commonly called the Pent Hall. They had a hall week where so many people were on campus, and they attribute, the rise in infections, partly or to some extent as a result of that event that was held on campus. The Ghana Health Service, also took up the matter seriously. They issued press statements. They've been cautioning the public, to go back to the safety protocols. And this is the story on City or ChannelOne News.com, as reported by Patricia Boache. It says, adopt COVID-19 protocols to curb new surge, and that's coming from the Ghana Health Service. The Ghana Health Service has urged the public to adhere strictly to COVID-19 safety protocols to prevent a possible resurgence of the virus following a recent spike in cases at the University of Ghana. This follows the University of Ghana confirming a resurgence of COVID-19 cases within its community and subsequently issued a directive suspending all social gatherings on campus. Speaking on City Eyewitness News on Thursday, June 26th, Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Esiedu Bequin, clarified that contrary to popular belief, the virus has never been fully eradicated. And this is his quote. He says, COVID never left. COVID has been with us since 2020. Somewhere last year, the Director General of the World Health Organization said COVID is no longer an emergency, but we never said COVID is gone. If it were, the World Health Organization would have declared an end to the pandemic. The story goes on to say he explained that Ghana's surveillance system have continued monitoring the virus and have picked up intermittent cases over the past few months. The recent increase on the University of Ghana campus, he noted, was linked to a whole week celebration where student interactions may have facilitated the transmission. So guys, that's the big story out there. Make sure you are fully protected. If you are going into some public spaces and you are not sure, put on your nose masks. Practice the really basic hygiene, we're taught during the period. Make sure you wash your hands. You can have a pocket of sanitizer with you all the time. Use it when you use, very crowded public spaces. Make sure your nose mask is on, and let's, help reduce the rate at which, this virus seems to be traveling. Very briefly, before we end the news review segment, it's important that we bring you some stories, that's also gotten quite a number of you talking, and I'm referring to stories on GhanaWeekend.com. Like I mentioned earlier, Jifa Gomashi has been applauding Guinness World Record holder for advancing creative arts. But I know we woke up to an interesting story, I believe earlier this week, where some photos of, two men, appear in what it is believed to be in some sort of romantic relationship, surfaced on the internet. Now, these two men were seen holding hands and kissing in some of these photos. Now, what happened really is that a lot of people, or there was some backlash to the photos because of also the location where these photos were taken. Some of them, or some of the comments on social media, described it as abhorrent that a seemingly gay couple would take photo at a national security installation, right? And also, we've heard comments within some quarters that there's still some legal provisions as to, what an action like that could mean, right? And it's sort of like brought to the fore again conversations around the anti-gay bill. Now we know that the bill, as was being pushed by the previous or in the 8th Parliament, when it was sent to the president for his signature. Of course, a new government came, and we are being told that a bill doesn't transcend into new administrations. So it means that we'll have to go back to scratch again. This new government promised or spoke a lot about how it intends to deal with this bill. Now, from the president, we've heard that it's been brought back into Parliament for some modifications, right? After which, if it gets to him, he'll probably sign. Of course, a lead proponent of the bill, that's Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram and also now Minister for Communication and Technology, Simon Ate George, has been at the fore of this. When this particular video surfaced again, he was seen on social media talking about it. Of course, there's a political twist to it because some people feel like they're not hearing a lot about it in this new administration. He came out to debunk all of those assertions and reiterated the point that it's been brought back to Parliament again. I'm referring to this 9th Parliament. And according to him, he will hold this government or his president responsible and ensure that it is assented to when it finally reaches his desk. So very brief excerpt of the story. Sam George slams viral gay photos at Independence Square. Yes, so the story reads, Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Sam George has strongly condemned viral photos circulating online that shows a same-sex couple posing at Ghana's Independence Square. In a statement shared on his official X account, the lawmaker described the act as a blatant show of disrespect to Ghana's culture, values, and national symbol. He also took the opportunity to respond to members of the New Patriotic Party who have called on him to take action, accusing them of hypocrisy. According to him, the current situation is a direct result of the NPP's government's failure to pass and enforce legislation that will protect Ghanaian cultural values. So the story is going on. I'm sure, to linger on for some time. Clearly, some people are not happy with the photos and, of course, where it was taken, right? They describe it as a national security installation and an affront to Ghanaian family, values, and culture. We'll see how far this story goes, but I'll be following keenly to bring you all the developing angles to this. But that's all time will allow us for our news review segment with me, Jude Duncan.